A tenant in a tiny home village in Detroit tried to scam her nonprofit landlord and get a property for an extreme discount while she didn't even live there. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Detroit, Michigan. Now, it has to do with what's going on with this nonprofit landlord and the eviction that they filed against one of their tenants. Right now, normally I don't talk about nonprofit landlords because they're government subsidized. They don't work on a basic profit method, right? And they, it really doesn't have a lot to do with the small mom and pop landlords or even the big landlords in the way we operate our businesses, right? But I wanted to bring this story up because it really highlighted this garbage tenant, right? And how she tried to scam this landlord and use the system. This is what you see when you see these like socialist programs. You see a lot of people who are not deserving, who are trying to scam the system so they can get something for free or at an extreme discount, okay? And that's exactly what she was doing here. So she lived in she used this program in order to live in this tiny house, supposedly, right? Well, the landlord found out that she wasn't actually living there and decided to evict her. Now she's got the newspaper and everybody saying, oh, this landlord is evil. Well, and racist on top of that. I believe that she called the landlord racist for evicting her. But I don't think that's the case. I think she's just pulling a bunch of garbage out of her butt because she got caught doing something and now she wants to garner sympathy or whatever, right? The truth of the matter is that she's a scammer, okay? And, I hate scammers. I hate people who try to cheat landlords over in particular. And, I will put, all of this onto her because, what she was doing was wrong. And even though it's a nonprofit landlord, that doesn't mean that they deserve to get used like this. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So do you consider it wrong for a person to scam a nonprofit landlord? Okay. Now keep in mind that nonprofits most of the time will they will do almost anything they can to not have to evict somebody. They will take horrible tenants, people with evictions on their records, with criminal histories, with the inability to rent a normal place, and they will give them nice places in decent condition for way, way below what the market would normally charge. So, if you look at the good aspects of, what they're doing, and then you look at what this lady was doing trying to scam them, well, there's no forgiving her at all, okay? So, interesting story, and let me get into it. This story is coming from thesun.com, and it says, ordered out, disabled tiny home village resident forced out of her house for not living there enough, despite offering to pay rent. And this article is written more from her or from the tenant's perspective as though she's just some innocent victim, right? Bunch of garbage. And I'm going to rip through this article as we go through it. So let's get into it. A former resident at a tiny home village was evicted and lost out on owning her own property despite offering to pay rent. The tiny home village on the west side of Detroit, Michigan, houses low-income residents who are able to own their homes after 7 years. Tenants pay a monthly rent of $1 per square foot plus electricity, and the homes range from 225 square feet to 470 square feet. Residents include retirees, former homeless people, and seniors, some of whom earn just $7,000 per year. So yeah, it's like a tiny home village. These are not big homes, right? It's in the city of Detroit, and I imagine that they are, pretty nice since the nonprofit put them together, and they had government subsidies and all that, right? So they let the people pay rent $1 per square foot So, and the biggest place is 470 square feet. So, if you own a 470 square foot place, you only pay $470 a month. If you own one of the smaller places that's 225 square feet, then you only pay $225 a month. So, 470 square feet is about the size of a studio apartment. That's not too bad. The 225 is pretty small, but if it's the only thing you can afford, that's not so bad. And the way that they worked it out was that if you rent one of these places and you live in it for 7 years, then you have the option to buy it from them. Okay, or maybe I don't know if they give it to you, or let me read back and see if it says they're able to own the homes after 7 years. So I guess if you just live in it for 7 years, they just give it to you, based upon the rent that you were paying. So yeah, sounds like a pretty good program. And, I guess if it works for you, then it works for you. But this lady, rather than simply following the rules of the program, she decides she wants to scam the program. That's the big problem. Tara Brown, 44, was diagnosed with stage 5 kidney disease and qualified for the tiny home project in 2020 because she was on disability. However, she was evicted in April after failing to spend enough time in her tiny home for it to be deemed her primary residence. Cass Community Social Services claimed that she had been spending more time living at her boyfriend's $2,000 per month apartment than at her tiny home. Truth is coming out, and guess what? We got a scammer here. So basically, she ain't living in this house, okay? She is living with her boyfriend in his $2,000 a month apartment. So, nope. And how do we know that she was living there? Well, let me keep reading. The claims added that Brown had her name on the lease, though she argued this was for ease of access to the complex and its facilities, including the pool. When signing the agreement for the tiny home, residents agreed that it will be their primary residence. As a result, in 2021, social services chose not to renew Brown's lease, despite her offering to pay rent. Yeah, so she's like, listen, I don't even have to live in this place, and I can pay some super low rock bottom rent for 7 years, and then I'll own it. Oh, and I get to live in, this luxury apartment for $2,000 a month, swim in the pool. Yeah, whatever. Scammer. Just a straight scammer. And so they rightfully evicted her in my mind, right? But she doesn't think it's right. That's not fair. Your name is on the lease at this $2,000 a month place. You don't live in this tiny house. You need to go. You're not, you can't be part of this program. They wanted this program for people who actually wanted to live in affordable housing, and apparently you don't need it because you got a boyfriend who's able to pay $2,000 a month, which in a place like Detroit, $2,000 a month is a pretty decent place to live, okay? So, yeah, that's crazy to me that she's just trying to scam the system and that this article doesn't see right through it, She was then served an eviction notice after refusing to leave once her offer of rent was turned down. Brown and Cass Community Social Services went to court over the issue. Reverend Faith Fowler, the executive director of Cass Community Social Services, said in a statement that Brown violated both the spirit and the conditions of the Tiny Homes program, according to the Detroit News. She added that Brown did this by choosing to make another residence her primary home. Yeah, and it's their program. That was the condition that she agreed to. And then she signs a lease at some other place and decides to live there instead. So, yes, she was rightfully evicted, and it seems to me that it's pretty obvious that she was just scamming it.